Hey, what's up, everybody? The Smashing Machine trailer is out, and James and I are going to talk about it, so check it out.
1978とある田舎町で生まれて移り住んだ新宿で育ちこの町で起きたこれまでの俺たちのここまでの生い立ちはほんのまた序の口試されたいちいち正してきた過ち騙し合いやからしないはスニッチの始まり放課後の登山所児童館にホームアローンそんな時間はほったらかして向かったとある場所
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YAMATODAMASHI podcast. Enson, how's things?
Up? Good, everything's good. Real busy, which is good. And yeah, it's getting the Japanese YouTube going. We're working this, so everything's working out really well.
Yeah,
is good.
In case people didn't know, Enson has got a multilingual. He's got his Japanese YouTube channel and the English-speaking YouTube channel. And actually, if you are new to this podcast, please check out the other videos we've got. We talk about Enson's career, his fighting career, but we also cover all the different things going on in his life in past and present, which is pretty eventful.
Very eventful, like a movie.
Indeed, which is a perfect segue to what we're going to be talking about today, because a couple of weeks ago, the Smashing Machine trailer debuted. So I'm interested to get Enson's thoughts, got some questions around how things have come about. I guess the first question where I wanted to ask you was, what was your first reaction when you heard that you'd be portrayed in the Smashing Machine?
Well, when I first heard about the Smashing Machine, I wasn't sure if I was going to be portrayed or how it was going to be, but because I was portrayed in the documentary, I knew, my character was probably going to be in the movie, but I'm not sure, like, what. I think my fight with Mark was right at the time when he was, like, teeter-tottering on the drug use and the steroid use. So I think it was a real pinnacle turning point in his career. I think my fight was the last fight he really felt good on all the drugs he was doing. It was going to be in there, but I didn't know how big it was going to be. I didn't know it was just going to be mentioned. I still don't know how big a part it played, but apparently I know they have a Enson character in the movie, which is pretty cool.
Which we'll get into. I mean, for those that don't really know this documentary, if it's something new that's to them. So obviously The Rock is starring in this film, big Hollywood actor. He's also alongside Emily Blunt. And it's being directed by Benny Safdie, who's a pretty, really good upcoming director. He actually directed a film called Good Time, which is a really good film. If people haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But this is a big blockbuster movie. The trailer right now currently has 12 million views. It's from it's from a big studio as well that are cracking out lots of really well-renowned films. And it's obviously a remake of a documentary. Now the trailer looks pretty close to the documentary, so it does look almost like the film has just been a remake of it, which is a lot of the feedback that fans have given. And we know from the trailer and from conversations that you've had that you have been casted, and you've been casted by Satoshi Ishii, which some fans may remember. When did you hear that Satoshi Ishii was going to be playing Enson Inoue?
He messaged me about a year ago and told me, I'm playing you, Enson. I hope I can. I'm honored to play you, and I hope I can do your character justice.
That's awesome. And I mean, for those that don't know, Satoshi Ishii, Olympic gold medalist in judo, was at one point, people looked at him to be the next big Japanese heavyweight right after Pride had kind of fallen off, right? And people were looking for, like, what's the next generation of Japanese heavyweight stars. Had an interesting career, fought all over from Dream to K1 to, like, all sorts of different promotions. Do you think having a fighter play yourself lends to the role?
Well, I was wondering what they're going to do with that, because if you get a fighter, you're not going to get, like, class A acting. Yeah. I mean, you got guys like, who was good? Like Holly Holm was horrible. I think Misha Tate was pretty good. You got people like usually fighters aren't going to be good actors. So you're either going to get the look of a fighter, the movement of a fighter, but you're not going to get the top class acting, or you're going to get the top class acting, but you're going to get a guy that's trying to be a fighter. So I was wondering what they're going to do with that. So when I heard Ishii was playing it, I was like, wow, he's huge, and I'm thinking I'm not as big as Ishii, so I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna look real like buffed out and massive. So yeah,
Um,
I was kind of surprised in a way that he played me, but I was hoping it was some like Tom Cruise or something, some wow, that guy Enson's handsome, kind of thing.
I'd argue The Rock looks more like you than Mark Kerr, but
uh, he could have played me, yeah. I think,
yeah,
yeah, Rock wouldn't have to put on a wig and stuff. He would have just played himself, and he could have played me better than he did Mark Kerr. But you know what was really crazy is he walks like Mark Kerr. When I saw the trailer, I was
Mm.
freaked out. I was like, wow. At times, I thought that was Mark Kerr walking in.
Yeah, and he's got the voice as well. You could tell he's kind of doing like the softly spoken voice. So it's kind of cool. I
Yeah.
didn't really see it as The Rock. I saw it, I think he's a good actor. I think this will probably
Yeah. I
showcase
saw
his.
him as Mark Kerr, too, when I saw the
Yeah.
trailer. And you know what's amazing is just to think that you're talking about a Hollywood production. I know the players in the production. I mean, not only am I one of the fighters in it, but like I know Mark Kerr personally. I know Boss Luton personally. I know Mark Coleman personally. All the players in that. I was around that scene. I was around that time, and just to think that someone like The Rock is playing and directing the movie
Mm.
is like, it's kind of for me. I'm like pretty stoked that MMA is hitting as mainstream as you can get. You're talking about a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, for real, right? It's especially that era of MMA. We're not talking like Conor McGregor era. We're not talking Ronda Rousey era. We're talking the original, Pride 2000s, the open weight Grand Prix. Huge moment in MMA
Yeah,
history, which doesn't really get that much spotlight these days. So it's pretty perfect that we've got
yeah.
this film coming out. So on that note, how do you feel about those guys like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Emily Blunt, big name stars being a part of this film?
Well, I think it's awesome that you got like major superstars in the movie. As far as how I feel about them playing it, I mean, I would probably have to see the movie to see how it's played, how real, how it catches the real scenes of Mark Kerr. It catches the real I guess the ferocity of the fights. That is going to be for me. I've been in there, felt it, I'm in it. I mean, that's my whole life, and to see how they're going to portray it is going to be real important to me. To see how the before the fight, during the fight, after the fight, and the intensity of the fight, that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to portray that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the documentary really captures that side of things. I think it does a good job of showcasing how brutal some of the fights were. Even in the beginning, it kind of shows
Yeah,
Mark's debut fights in Brazil and the headbutts, and then obviously it transitions to his story in Pride. So it's going to be interesting to see how they capture that on the big
well,
screen. Going back, because one of the most interesting things about the Smashing Machine, obviously, is the lead up to the fight, right? And in the lead up, Mark goes into rehab like prior. Is that the reason why your initial fight with him was cancelled because he went into rehab?
no, the initial fight with him was canceled because I got hurt in one of the fights.
Okay,
Oh no,
because he did apologize,
the
didn't he?
initial fight was canceled because he said he had like knee surgery or something. So maybe because he went in rehab,
Well,
and
that's what I
maybe
was
the
curious about.
excuse was knee surgery. Oh, it was elbow surgery, I think.
Did you know? Did you know about like the drug issues at the time when you guys were scheduled to fight?
No, not at all.
Really? So it was all kept hush hush.
Yeah, well, later on, like before, once not before the fight was canceled, but before when we actually fought, there was rumors that he was real heavy on Newbane. So I don't know what actually was what drug it was actually announced as, or but the rumor that was going around was that he's heavily on Newbane, which is a real strong painkiller.
Yeah, because in the documentary it shows him overdosing, and I'm sure they'll be doing that in the
Did they
film,
say
right?
what drug it was? Did it say Newbane or?
I can't remember. It might have been. It was, yeah, some sort of painkiller medication.
Yeah, yes. I think Newbane's a real addictive painkiller.
But they did show a clip where he's asking the Pride doctors for painkillers or anything, any sorts of drugs to help him post fight.
Oh wow.
So it's interesting though. It seems like he managed to hide it quite well, right? Earlier on, and then
Well, he also hit it quite well in his physique and he was strong,
yeah,
fast. Everything was like you didn't even. I mean, looking at him fight, you would never even think that he's like doing drugs or doing painkillers or doing steroids or whatever it was he was doing.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the reasons, right? You wanted to fight him. He looked unstoppable. It's coming into that fight. Other than the fight with Igor, where there was a bit of a discrepancy because of the knees to the head. Other than that, he looked like unbeatable. It looked like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine. In the documentary leading up to the fight, they show Baz Rutten training Mark. Do you think Baz had Mark trained really well for you?
Yeah, I think so. And he was also in the corner with Mark, and I mean, Mark did a good job. Had a good strategy. I thought he wanted to strike with me, and he took me down. His wrestling's really good. So with my lack of even caution of him taking me down, he took me down easy, and because of his wrestling, he was able to keep position. So I felt that he knew the guard really well. I didn't have any chance to slap on an arm guard, or even didn't have a thought of actually being able to sweep him. He couldn't pass my guard, but still, he knew enough that he could stay in my guard and ground and pound. And I think that has to do with Basutin was part of Pancras, which is very you have to be very adverse on the ground to be in Pancras. So Boss, of course, is a striker, but being in Pancras, I'm sure he's learned the ground a lot. So I guess Mark had his Mark. I felt like Mark did his homework.
Yeah, I feel like that rewatching the fight. He obviously landed a few good up kicks and that side of things, but he managed to control you for most, the majority of the fight. The one thing I was curious in was going into that fight, were you almost thinking in your head this is going to be similar to the Randy fight?
Well, no, going into that fight, I thought he was gonna throw down standing. I didn't think he was gonna wrestle with me. I think there was an interview or something that he said that he's gonna, stand toe to toe with me. So I mean, I don't know if it was bait or it was just trying to trick me on what my strategy would be. It worked. I thought he was gonna stand with me. I just thought, I mean, as big as he was and as strong as he was, I didn't think that I was gonna beat him. And I knew that if I beat him, it would be a war. And I was just willing to just give it all I got and see what happens. And I didn't think it was going to be where we go the distance in the round and it's a decision. I thought someone was going to get hurt, someone's going to go down. And I was just training hard and hoping it would be me that knocks him out. But he was too strong and he had his bases covered on being defensive from any attacks from the guard.
Yeah, it felt like Mark definitely had the right game plan.
Oh, yeah.
And when you compare that fight to his fight with Igor prior, and then watching the Smashing Machine, and you'll see what going into the Igor fight, he's clearly pretty messed up with all the different drugs he's taken, and then coming into your fight, he's obviously got himself clean, but obviously still on all the steroids that he had back then. So it was quite, I think you faced one of the better versions of Mark Kerr at that time, especially with Baz in his corner. One of the things that the documentary highlights really well is kind of when he slipped away from Baz and he, having quite like the domestic relationship. with his then wife at the time. That seems where all the problems kind of occur, to be honest, because
Apparently, he left training camp to go back
yeah,
home, and it was in the middle of training camp. Yeah.
yeah, and that was for the next round, right, where he'd advanced into the next round of the
To
open weight
Fujita, I
tournament.
think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, which turned out to be a big mistake, right? So
You know what's funny is in the Smashing Machine, they really had the girlfriend looking really bad. Like, she was a real bad person to be with. And
yeah,
I'm kind of interested to see in the movie how they're going to portray her, because there's two sides of the story in a
yeah,
relationship. I mean, if we're getting just Mark Kerr's side and we sing, well, she really looked bad though. That's why. I mean, I don't think there's a soul that saw Smashing Machine that liked her at all. Not even. I mean,
yeah.
borderline. I don't know if anybody didn't hate her.
It paints her in a really bad light, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the film because the documentary is an hour and a half. But there's a lot of that which I wouldn't expect to see in the film. We'll see. From the trailer, it almost looks like a remake, but I think maybe they'll highlight more of the relationship stuff and some of the issues. So it'll be interesting to see how she's perceived.
Yeah. I actually had people messaging me saying that why did they contact you to play yourself, or why didn't they contact you and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's weird because when after they said that, I thought, oh, that's right. How come they didn't contact me? But when I heard Ishii was playing me, there wasn't anything in me saying, oh, how come I couldn't play myself? I
Hmm.
guess I do admit I'm not an actor. Two, I'm not in the best shape. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to be portrayed in the movie as I am in the shape that I am. And when you look at Ishii,
Yeah.
he's like, yeah. So
I was
it's
gonna say,
like,
but
cool, man. He
Ishii
looks,
looks, yeah, physically looks the part, right? Um,
well, he actually looks tougher and bigger and scarier than I actually was. So, I mean, that'd be cool. But I also kind of wish that they portrayed my fight with him as it is, how much bigger he was for me.
what's going to be interesting as well, right? Is so in the documentary, they obviously don't talk to you,
No,
but they do
no.
show the clip of you at Pride where you're talking about the journalist, right? But it looks like because you say if you come into my house, I'm going to smash you, right? Was that?
Oh, the documentary, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Did you think that makes it to the film?
I don't know. I wonder. I
Yeah.
mean, I think they're going to want to portray, if they go into my character deep enough, they're going to want to portray what like a animal I was, or I wanted to like smash him, kill him, that kind of stuff. So they might, but that's the thing. We talked about it before, and that's why I was kind of interested in having Mark Kerr on the podcast, because that whole thing was misunderstood. I wasn't even talking about Mark Kerr. They in the smashing me scene, they had it like I was talking about Mark, and I'm gonna smash him, and I guess smash him, kill him, and then drag him out of my house, and then kick you out or something, something like that.
Yeah. It's
But it
like
wasn't. It had nothing to do with Mark. It just so happened that I had an incident with a what is that? A writer, like a one of those writers that writes in the gossip magazines.
right.
And I got into like a big altercation with them, and got charged with assault, and so I was pretty much said an apology. Pride wanted me to say apology to the public. Japanese style is you show remorse and you apologize. So I apologize, and then just like me, like, and you expect from Enson is, yeah, I'm not going to be all apologetic. I apologize like I should, like a Japanese guy would, and then I added my own shit in. Yes, but if you do it, insult me, come into my house, I'm gonna smash you, beat you, and kick you out. It's like, oh, he apologized, but not really. I just erased the apology right there by doing that.
Nice. Um, it's almost like that Conor McGregor, apologize for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, kind of like that. It was kind of in that sense, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they include that in the film because it totally changed like you say, like that wasn't aimed at Mark Kerr, right? That was aimed at someone completely different. But when you're watching the documentary, it totally is interpreted that way because it's almost like, hey, Mark coming over to Japan, like you come to my
Yep.
house, I'm gonna step on you and send you packing, sort of thing. So
I think the directors in that Smash Machine didn't do enough proper research, and they really thought that I was talking about Mark Kerr.
Yeah, it seems that way. Because the other thing I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you was leading up into the fight, there's no backstage footage of you. So I wondered whether they'd asked you whether they would film you or not, and you sort of said like, "Fuck no," like you're not filming me. Did they ever approach you about being filmed for the documentary?
No, not at all.
No. What would you have said to them if they had asked you?
Well, I would have. Yeah, I would have been more than happy.
Yeah, you would have been cool.
I think I misconstrued as a Japanese that can't speak English, because all the Japanese fighters are all portrayed by someone else. They have Shoji being played by someone else. You know, they have. I looked at some of the casts, and all the Japanese players did. Not a single Japanese player is being played. And maybe because Ishii's living in Croatia now, and he's a Croatia passport, maybe they felt that he could play me. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
I
the
wonder.
casting.
I would like to know why they didn't reach out to the actual fighters. You know, because I did play Red Belt, I did play Hawaii 5-0, so I'm not an actor, but I'm not total virgin in the acting scene. So you would think they might want to cast and look at me and say, "Oh, he's too fat. We can't use him." You know, but at least like give it a chance to actually have the real person.
Or even consult with you, right? In terms of who you think would be able to play you.
Yeah. Even I think I thought that if it was really thoroughly done, they would have consulted me in the like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Why, they would understand the character more, so they could have Ishii play me better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it'd be interesting. Switching gears on this fight, right? You have lived one hell of a life of some crazy highs, some crazy lows. It makes sense for there to be a film about you, a TV series, a documentary, whatever. There should be something, right? If someone made a biopic about yourself, what do you feel like would be one of the most important scenes to have in the film?
Probably the jail term. I'm going into the nuclear zone, doing a lot of charity work, Yakuza incidents. And I think the fact that I'm American going into Japan and surviving there.
There's so many, right? Because from your fighting career, obviously you've got the highlight of subbing Randy Couture when he's the lineal UFC heavyweight champion. You've got the battle with Igor, which everybody remembers. Even the fight with Nogueira was a big deal as well, just in terms of the magnitude of that fight, like the retirement fight, but then also the drama in the fight. But then, as you say, outside of the ring, you've got countless incidents with Yakuza that you can barely remember because there's been so many. You've got coming to Japan and like having that transition, jail time twice. There's a lot.
Too many times.
There's a lot of ground. There's a lot of ground. So yeah, be interesting to see like when this film comes out, whether people reach out, because The Smash Machine is a great documentary, but Mark Kerr's careers, so it was quite like a short amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And that covers such a short amount of period that I'd be interested to see if people enjoy this, what they want to see next, in terms of MMA history. But I think people will agree with me, and please put in the comments. But as far as profiles of who to do a movie on, it makes sense for you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would. I thought, not being like, not talking about myself, but I think my life would be a good movie.
Yeah.
I believe it would be. It'd be interesting because I've been through so many. Not only I've been through so many experiences, ups and downs, I've learned a lot. I've changed a lot. I've adapted with each experience.
Yeah.
Maybe I gotta die before they make a movie on me. Yeah.
Maybe
Have a real good dying ending. Yeah, maybe.
don't script it. I mean, to be fair, you put yourself in front of the fire quite a few times, right? In terms of some hairy moments, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What do you want to? When people go and watch this film, what do you want them to feel?
Well, I think as far as the movie itself, I think I'd like the audience to take in that, just because you go in the ring, just because Mark Kerr looks like a specimen, we're all human, man. We have fears, we all have weaknesses, we all have like we pussy out on stuff, and we're human pretty much. The fighters are all human, and I think Mark Kerr's whole career actually portrays that. As scary and as invincible he looked in the ring, he had a lot of fears and he was battling a lot of demons. And it's the same for for me, my career. Everyone thinks that I'm this guy who never tapped, never feels pain. I was scared. I think majority of my fights before I got into the ring is I mean it was weird. Like my body, my tears, I started tearing up in my eyes. Like I don't know if it was because I was scared of what might have happened, or I was you know thinking that I might actually die tonight. I don't know what it was, but I would tear up a lot. I remember the Heath Hearing fight. Before the fight, when I was waiting in the top of the arena to walk down into the fight. I remember tearing up and thinking,
Wow.
"What the fuck's going on? Why am I tearing up?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be like going into a professional fight must be absolutely nuts. I guess final question is, how do you think Mark's story compares to the modern MMA world?
I think a lot of people will have a hard time relating to it. A lot of fans today, and even a lot of the current fighters, because um, it wasn't it was this barbaric sport back in the day. Mark was fighting in this barbaric sport with very little rules, especially when he fought in Brazil. It was bare knuckled, headbutts,
Mm.
everything goes. No weight classes. I mean, of course, he was one of the bigger ones, but it was such a whole different beast. It wasn't a sport, and then the people, and the other thing about that is the fighters that it attracted were guys that were pretty boys. These guys that were all fighting back in that day were guys that didn't give a fuck, man. They were there to die. They were there to hurt. It was guys that this is this barbaric sport, human cockfighting, too violent for TV, but these guys signed up to be in it. So just the whole feeling of the sport. Well, not sport. It was a feeling of the battle, of the war, was just so different. And so people might say, "Oh, what's wrong with him? He does steroids or he does painkillers." But the fighters nowadays don't understand that didn't have sponsors because no sponsor wanted to put their name behind this violent sport. TV productions did not want to show it. Some states didn't allow it. It was illegal. And then you got fighters that, I mean, for us, steroids was something that we thought they were taking. Everyone was taking steroids, we thought. But now it's like you make this big, like, like someone like, Mark Hunt is suing Brock Lesnar in the UFC because he felt that it was almost like attempted murder when they let Brock Lesnar fight with being positive for steroids. So to the new generation is to that extent that steroids looks like something like you're bringing a gun to the fight. But in our day, it was something like, okay, he's taking steroids. Okay, I gotta adjust to it. Mark Kerr's gonna be on steroids, and I gotta beat it with stamina. So it was like a whole different animal in there. So for the fighters today to not know what the intensity, what the whole movement of that human cockfighting was like, might think like, oh, what's wrong with Mark? Why is he such a pussy? Why is he taking steroids? Oh, he's a cheater. That kind of stuff. It's not nothing like that, man. It's it's such a different thing now today.
Yeah, it's like night and day different, right? Even like the prize money, right? They were talking about in the documentary, the big prize for the open weight tournament, right, was $200,000. And you think like that's the highest. That open weight Grand Prix at that time in 2000 would have been the biggest MMA fight, right, of all time at that point. The finals of that tournament, and that's the biggest prize. So anything under that is like it's just completely different worlds, like you say, different. Even the training, right,
Yeah,
completely different. You're
yeah.
training for maybe one discipline or two disciplines. Now the training is for MMA. So
Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting, man.
Mm. Cool. I think that's it. Your internet is going crazy, so we'll probably leave it at that. So we'll just, unless you got anything else you want to touch on before I wrap it up.
No, good. That's good, man. We're looking forward to the movie. Um, you know, hopefully, when is it due to come out?
I think it's October, September, October.
Oh, good. This year.
Yeah,
All right. Looking forward to seeing that, man. And
yeah,
I've already reached out to Ishii Satoshi and asked him to come on our podcast, and he's totally game and kind of from his side wants to come on our podcast and talk about it. So
that'll be
let's
good.
do that in the future.
Let's do it. It'd be interesting to see if you get an invite to the premiere. I mean, like there's someone
Yeah, I
playing
can't
you.
go though. I'm fucking detained in Japan though.
Never know. Maybe things will get
Uh,
better.
hopefully.
See what happens. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Please let us know in the comments what you guys thought of the casting of Enson. Who else would you like him to be played by if it was someone different? Let us know if you're looking forward to the Smashing Machine. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And in the comments, let us know what you think. If you had any comments on the trailer, if you have any other things you want us to talk about, put in the comments. Everyone, thank you for watching.